This conference will now be recorded.
So in the previous class, we were talking about Docker Compose, where I told that if you have multiple Docker containers and you want to manage them as one single unit, you can very well go and just create a Docker Compose file and start using that Docker Compose file to create your Docker Compose environment. The best thing which you get with a Docker Compose is you get one single file, and the networking related issues can be easily addressed when you're using a Docker Compose. Now, if you are aware, there used to be earlier, we used to work on a monolithic architecture. So what is this monolithic architecture? So monolithic architecture simply means that you're putting everything on one single server, something like this. So let me say this is your database component, this is your website, this is your front end, this is your middle server, this is your interface layer. So whatever you have, you're putting in one single server. The problem with this kind of a setup is if one of the component is gone, okay, or has a problem, you have to shut down everything, bring your application down, see what has gone wrong, and fix the problem. The problem is that because all the services are interlinked, there is a possibility that problem in one may have cascaded to the other component. Debugging can be a challenge, and obviously one biggest problem which I see is when I am doing the maintenance work, when I'm doing the repair work, but for that time, let me say it's 5 minutes, let me say it's 20 minutes, let me say it's a 1 day, but whatever time I take to repair my application, bring my application back online, for that period of time, my application is not available, or there is a 404 page not available thing for my customers. So for a solution, what I did is I went to microservice based architecture. So when I say microservice based architecture, these components are very loosely coupled with each other so that if there is a problem in one of the components, let me say there is a problem here, I can just scrap this and let others run. So this is running, this is running, this is running. Meanwhile, I'll come and fix this. So it may take 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But at the end of the day, my customers are still getting served from this server, from this microservice, from this microservice. So gradually, most of the companies or almost all the companies have migrated from monolithic applications to microservice based architecture. Now, when I say microservice based architecture and each component is working independently, it means I need those many machines. But it is very evident that I cannot have those many machines. So what I do is I start using Docker containers, and each Docker container behave as an independent environment. And on that independent environment, I can install my stuffs and very well use it as per my requirement. So net, what we see here now is that the number of containers which I will be using, or the number of containers which are going to come now, has drastically increased. Now, as and when this number of container increases, I will have I will have to go to someone who can manage all these things for me. So let me just come and give you an example of Uber. So you might have microservice, and I'm talking about Uber. So earlier, the application was something like this. Okay, everything is clubbed at one place. So what they have done is they have simply split the microservice based architecture. So each component is working independently. Now, the moment I split this, okay, each component has to go into a different container, different container or different Docker container, I'll say. Now, as and when these number of container increases, the problem increases. I have to manage them, okay? Because I can't leave few containers running unnecessary. I cannot leave containers if they have failed. So I go to something called Docker Swarm, which is a tool which is basically used for container orchestration. So if I come here, I can very well see that there can be multiple Docker containers. So if you see here, 6 Docker containers are here, and they are all being managed by one Docker container Swarm server. See here also Docker Swarm servers are there. So basically, Docker Swarm server will help me to manage the entire infrastructure. Now, if you come here, you will see there will be manager nodes which will be managing or which will be acting like a master, and there will be worker nodes who will be actually doing the work. Okay, so we will see there is a manager node, worker node, and as and when the work demands, you will either see they will switch among themselves. Okay, so if somebody says what's the definition of this guy, what is a Docker Swarm, so I'll simply come here and say Docker Swarm is a container orchestration tool. So I'm looking for not Docker, I'm looking for Docker Swarm. Docker Swarm. Or we can say Docker Swarm definition. Where is it always showing Docker? It says a Docker Swarm is a group of either physical or virtual networks that are running Docker application and that have to be configured to join together in one cluster. Because I want to manage all the machines which are running these Docker containers, and inside those Docker containers my microservices are running. I want to manage them as one single unit. I will start using Docker Swarm. So Docker Swarm is a container orchestration tool. So it clearly calls out it's a container orchestration tool. Means it will allow multiple users to manage multiple containers and deploy the code across multiple host machines. So when I go and say I'm looking for a Docker Swarm architecture, so Docker Swarm architecture. Yeah, something like this. And this is a Docker Swarm architecture where I have manager nodes who are in sync with each other, who are managing the work, who are kind of doing the management related activities. And there are worker nodes who are actually doing the work. But which worker is free, which worker is gone, which worker has crashed, which worker health check has failed, all these things will be managed by this manager node. So I will simply say Docker Swarm is a container orchestration tool, and it allows multiple users to manage multiple containers which are deployed across multiple host machines. So this is what I just now saw here, the definition. Okay. Now, one thing which I will tell you well in advance, Docker Swarm has been overpowered by Kubernetes. Kubernetes being an open source, backed by Google, and a heavy community base, so it has kind of overlapped, or it has kind of taken control of Docker Swarm. So if you anytime go and say a comparison between Docker Swarm and Kubernetes, you will always see Kubernetes is the winner. So if you see here, anywhere you do any go to Google, do any kind of comparison, more or less you will see that Docker Swarm is left way behind, and we're looking for a one-to-one comparison. Because at the end of the day, both of them do the same thing. See here, so an article is there and says Kubernetes support higher demand with more complexity, while Docker Swarm offers simple solution that is quick to start with. Docker Swarm has been popular among developers who prefer fast deployment and simplicity. Kubernetes is utilized in prod environments by various high-profile internet firms running popular services. So it clearly calls it out that Kubernetes is used at an enterprise level, at a production level, whereas Docker Swarm is not that popular among enterprises. Yes, freelancers and people who had just started their work, they use Kubernetes, sorry, they use Docker Swarm, but later they also switch to Kubernetes. So that's the reason we'll not focus that much on Swarm, but we'll have a more focus on Kubernetes. But at the end of the day, both are doing the same thing. Okay, so using Docker Swarm, the power of containers can be leveraged. You get a high availability and the load balancing is automatically done. So if there are 5 containers, the work will be automatically distributed among these 5 containers. So what I will do is, let's first go ahead and do a Docker Swarm setup. So for this Docker Swarm setup, you can start with 3 machines. Let's say one is my master and there are 2 worker nodes, or to keep it simple, I will just close all these things. I will have only one master node and one worker node. You can take it to next level by having 2, 10, 20, 100, any number of machines is what you can take. So let me log into my cloud environment. So I'm in Mumbai right now. Let's go here. So let me do one thing first. Terminate what I'm not using. And if I go to, I think in North Virginia, I had those instances. So let me just go and check. Okay. So what I will do is, here it says that you don't have any instances. I'll go back to Mumbai only. And I'll create 2 instances here. Okay. Basically 2 Docker machine I'll create here. So Amazon Linux 2. And I will stick to T2 micro. And here I'll say I need 2 machines. One I will say Docker master and the other one I'll say Docker slave. So in tag, for time being, I'll give the name as Docker machine. And security group. I'll use a security group which has port 22 open. So I can come down here and check. So port 22 is open. Review and launch. Go ahead and launch it. And I'll use my key pair. So basically what will happen, 2 instances will come up with this. See, this is one and this is the second one. Click on any one of them. So as of now, you can see here. So this is terminated. So let's not concentrate on this. So there are 2 machines pending. I can make one as Docker master, or I can say Docker master, and the other one I will say Docker worker node, or I'll say simply say worker node. Your call if you want to give a different name. So what I can see is I have 2 machines here. One is my master and the other one is worker node. So let me first log into my master machine. And you can directly log in from here, or you can take the IP address and connect. Let's say putty. Let's say EC2 minus user. So this is my default user @ the IP address. In the appearance section, you can change the font size 16. Okay, and in SSH you will be using the key which you have, which is this one. Open it. Would you like to connect? Yes, I would like to connect. So EC2 is a default user. DevOps Mumbai KP is what I am connected. So if you want, you can change the username. How do I do that? Sudo su hyphen. I become a root user now, and this name I change via host name, and I will say, so this is Docker master. Again, sudo su hyphen. So I have this machine as Docker master. Now what I will do is I'll go to the other machine and say this is my worker node. So again, I take the IP address, again open putty. I will say EC2 minus user at the rate the IP address. You can say appearance, change the appearance, make it 16, or let's keep it as bold and 14 so that it is distinctly visible. Then SSH auth browse DevOps Mumbai key, open, accept. So this is my worker node. You can very well see here the font size is different. Alternatively, here also I can say sudo su hyphen. I can say host name worker node, and again I can say sudo su hyphen. So I can see this is my worker node and the other one is my master machine. Now I have to create a cluster or a setup where I can say one is my master node, the other one is my worker node. As of now, both are running independently. I don't know who is running where, but both are running independently in Mumbai region. So I'll go to my master machine, okay, and I will use this command. I will say, so I'm coming to my master. I'll say Docker swarm, okay, init minus minus advertise minus addr. So if I give this command, I'll get an error because I've not installed Docker Swarm. But let's try running this command and see what happens. Enter. So it says Docker is not found. Okay. So we should definitely go and say yum install Docker, because the last Docker machine which I had, I have deleted it. So it says there is some problem here. Docker is available in Amazon Linux. So it says first update the application. So you can say yum update -y. Okay. Then it says you can run this command to install Docker. To run to sudo Amazon Linux extras install Docker. Hit this command. So it is installing Docker for me. So let's wait for the Docker to come up. Why? I think the similar thing has to be done here also. Let me install here also. Because for Docker Swarm to run, Docker should be available. Once this installation is complete, I will come here and say service Docker status. I can see it is inactive and dead. So I will say service Docker start. And next time it should be working automatically. So I will say system CTL enable Docker. Okay, same set of commands here also. So service Docker start and system CTL enable Docker. Okay, so now I can come here and say Docker minus version. So Docker should be there here. So it's saying yes, Docker is here. This is the version, and this is what you have. So now let's come back and try running our command initially, which we were trying to run. Docker swarm init minus advertise address. Now, if you come here, it says uh, this advertise address is not correct. Okay, so what I will do is advertise address, but where, with whom you want to share your address. So I'll come here, and this is the guy with whom I want to share my address. So I will come here, come back here, and take the IP address of my worker node. So this is my worker node. You can take this IP or this IP. Either of them will work, but I'll take the IP address of my public machine, worker node's public IP. I'm running this command from my master node and put it like this. So it says Docker swarm init advertise the address to this guy. Okay, now so this is the command which I ran, right? It says swarm initialized. This is the node and this is the manager node, or this is the master node. If you want to run it with some other machine, or you want that this manager should manage someone, then take this command and run it here. So it is like I advertised my address, which is this thing. This started acting as a manager, and it says if somebody wants, I'm a manager now, somebody who wants to connect with me should run this command. Now in case you lose this command, you can run this thing and you will get the token once more. Okay, so you should have this command handy with you. So I'll just do one thing. Whatever command I'm running now, I'll keep it with me so that I can share these things with you. Okay, now I had run this command, and in turn I got this thing, and I have put it here. So it says error response from daemon, timeout was reached before the node joined. Now why the timeout has happened is because you're trying to run this at this particular port number 2377, but the security group which you are using has not opened this port number. So what I have to do here is I have to come back here on the security section. I have to come to this guy, the security group, come here and open that particular port number. So I'll say edit inbound rule. I will come down here. I will say add custom TCP rule, and which port you're looking at. I'm looking at 2377. Come here, open this port 2377 and say anywhere from IPv4, and they say this is for Docker swarm. Okay, just come here and say save the changes. So you have changed your security group. Now quickly go back here and run the same set of command again. Okay, so it's saying fine, it is connected. So it says if you want to see that so when I run this command docker swarm join, it says it has already joined the cluster, and if you want to leave the cluster, then you can say docker swarm leave. So I will say docker swarm leave, and I will run this command again. Let's see what happens. So it will take a minute or two. Okay, 1 second. Let's see. Error from daemon, unavailable description, connection error, transport while TCP 2377 connect, connection refused. Let's come and see if the command which we have given is correct. The command is absolutely right, I guess. Mhm. Let me just come back here. I think service Docker status active and running. Let me restart this. In DevOps world, which configuration is more complex than other? In DevOps world, each tool has its own complexity, I will say. Okay, so it is refusing the connection. Let me come here and say Docker, okay, node ls. So this is a master. So this is my master machine, which is Docker master. It is the leader node or the manager node which is ready, but this machine is refusing to connect, and 2377 is what I had given, right? But still it is not able to connect. Let me just check why it is not able to connect. Security group, and I was using this guy. Come down, 2377, this is absolutely correct. Okay, what I will do is I will just delete this instance. I think something went wrong with this instance. I will just come down, delete this, and create a new worker node. So let me come here to my dashboard. Here, this worker node is what I'm going to delete, and I'm going to create a new one. So I think something went wrong. I'm not exactly sure why it is not going and connecting. So let me just do this, close this. So I'm going and creating a new worker node, launch Amazon Linux, go with T2 micro, configure, let it be everything same. Just let me check here. Default VPC. Now everything looks okay. Storage is 8 GB. I'll give a name as worker node. Next, in the security group section, I'll use Mumbai security group. Go ahead and launch it. I'm using my DevOps KP. This is launched. This is my worker node, and this is the IP address. Let me try to connect to this. So putty, I will come as EC2 user at the rate whatever IP address you got. Appearance bold and 14. Okay. Key is auth browse and Mumbai KP. Yes, I would like to connect. Let me become a root user here. Sudo su hyphen and host name will be, let me say, worker node, worker node, sudo su hyphen. So this is perfectly okay. Then yum, not yum install docker will not work. Yum install docker. So if I go yum install docker, it says it will not work. Run this command to get docker installed. So we will wait for docker to get installed. Do you want to get it installed? Yes, I would like to get it installed. So I'm installing docker on my worker node. Basically, master node is already ready. Worker node is what I'm trying to create. One. Then I can also say yum update -y. Okay, so it's saying no package is marked for update. I can come here and say docker minus version. Check if docker is installed. Yes. I can say service docker status. Service docker status. So it is inactive and dead. I'll restart it, and then I will come back and see the status. So it is active and running. Now I would like to join the cluster. So to join the cluster, I had this piece of command here. Okay, so the IP address has changed. So I will take this much here first, and I will use an IP address of this machine, which is this guy, colon 2377 2377. Let's see what happens this time. Connection error. Wait, why is this connection error happening? Okay, let me do one more thing. Worker node, I'll take this private IP. Okay, Docker swarm leaf. Okay, so this is initialization done. This is the guy now. So error response code enable disk connection error. Dialing this thing 2377 connection refused. This is quite strange. Let me just come back to the security group. Probably something is going wrong from here itself. So I will do one more thing. Edit inbound rule. Come down here. And this time I'll just, for test purpose, I'll open all traffic. Two, 377. Ideally, it should easily get connected. In fact, it got connected on the first time also. This is quite funny. Docker Swan join manager. So it is only going and connecting to this guy. And here it is saying that there is an error response. Let me just see why am I getting this error. You might have missed a line to update Swarm post. You will get the output like this. Okay, this is what I've done. Docker info. We're doing exactly the same thing, right? See here, it says on the manager node, you do Docker Swarm edit minus minus advertise address, and the address to execute the following command manager initialize the swarm. Okay, wait, let's clear all these things. I understood, I think, what problem is happening. Minus minus false. Okay, so I'm going to run this command. but here I will not give the IP address of worker node. I should give the IP address of my main node or my master node. So Docker master, click on this IP address I'm going to give 13.232.94.122. Okay, so this is what I have done incorrectly. Okay, so Docker Swarm init advertise address, so I should give them master machine's IP address, but I was trying to give the worker machine IP address. Okay, so now this is what I have got. Let me take it to my worker node and paste it here. Yes, so now it's okay. It says this node joined your swarm as a worker, and this particular guy has joined as a manager. So if I come here and say Docker swarm or Docker node ls, so I will see there are two machines here. One is my Docker master, who is the leader here, and there is a worker node who has joined this cluster as a worker node. Okay, so I'll just repeat. I'll tell you what mistake I had done here. So a small mistake what I had done is when I was running this command, I should have given the IP address of my master machine. So this should be the IP address of my master machine, but I gave the IP address of my worker machine, which was this one. Okay, and that's why it was not able to connect. But now I rectified my mistake. In the Docker machine, I went ahead and gave this particular piece of command, Docker swarm init, and advertise address and this master machine's IP address. I got this guy. I took this command and I ran it here. The moment I run here, I get a message. This this node has joined your swarm as a worker node. Now, let me say you want to run some website here. So you run everything on master, and the master is one who will distribute the work, or he will tell you where the work has to go. Okay, so here let me say that I want to run some service like Jenkins. So I will say Docker service create, and you can give a name. You can give any name of your choice, like my Jenkins server. Okay, and at what port you want to run. So -p, I want to run at 8080 port number. And which image you want to run. So if you go to hub.docker.com, from there you can pull this image, Jenkins image. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say here is I'm going to run a service, okay, or I'm going to run an image, and the name I'm going to give as Jenkins server. It should run at port 8080, and this is the one which you should pull from hub.docker.com. If you enter, okay, it will say overall progress is 0 out of 1 task, one by one preparing. So it is basically trying to pull this guy Jenkins from internet, and you will see it here. Give some time to this guy. Meanwhile, when this is happening, see here, one by one starting, verifying whether whatever you have done is correct or not. See here, it is verifying. Just give some time, and it says service converged, means the service is ready to be used. So if now here I come and say Docker service ls, so I can see that there is a service with this ID. This is the name. It has been replicated, means you were trying to run it on master, but master told worker node is sitting free. Let me pass it on to worker. One by one replica means you only requested for one. So one replica is there. This is the image which is coming from hub.docker.com, and this is the port where it is running. Okay, now So this is what is running. So you want to see where is this running. So you can come here and say Docker service, okay, and you can say PS and whatever name you had given. So I've given this name. So if you take this thing, I'll take it to my notepad so that you can read it clearly. Notepad plus plus. See here, there is a service called my Jenkins server running with the image of Jenkins node. Which node it is working? It is working at worker node. Okay, the desired state is running, current state is also running. Are there any errors? So no, as of now there are no errors, and the port is 8080, but I don't know why it's not showing it here, but it is running and the desired state was also running. So the main thing which you should be noticing here is that the command which you ran on your master machine or on your manager node, but the manager node delegated that work to the worker node, stating that the worker node is like free. Let me just go ahead and take it out. Now what I will do is I will simply drain this worker node, or I will somehow make this worker node unavailable. Okay, so I can see one thing here, that this is running at worker node. So what I will do, I will somehow close the worker node so that let's see what happens if the worker node crashes. Okay, so I will come here and say docker node update minus minus AWA ILIBILITY or AVALA available AVAILABILITY, and you basically drain this node. Means you just take all the power out of the node. And which node? Worker node. Okay, now what will happen is if you come back here, you will see the worker node is shut down because you have drained it. You have like kind of closed the worker node. So automatically the machine realized that from last 4 seconds, this machine, my worker node, is in shutdown state. So quickly it transferred the load to my master machine. Okay, now because it has transferred the load to my master machine, my application will run seamlessly, smoothly, without any trouble. So this is the benefit which I get when I start using Docker Swarm. So these services will be managed very smoothly, very easily, and at the end of the day, I am not bothered, or I'm not concerned where is this running. Now the question is, where is this image running? Can you show me where is it running? So yes, I can see that it is running on Docker master. So if I, and also I know it is running at port 8080. So if I come here to my Docker master, take this IP address, come here, put it here, colon 8080, I can see my Jenkins server, and says if you want, you can just go here and take your password. So we'll go and we'll get our password from there. So what we'll do is we will bring our machine back first. So from drain, I'll make it active. Okay. So the moment I bring it active, I can see, so still it is shut down. I'll wait for a minute or two. So this worker node will come up, and then it is on my master to decide whether it will push the work to the worker node or it will keep it with itself, whatever it is. Let's see for the last time. Still it is in shutdown state, so it will take some time, it will come up. But meanwhile, if I come here and say so still it is running on that node only. Okay, no worries. So I'll come here and say Docker service ls. So I can see that this is running one by one. Okay, and basically I need that service. Okay, so what I can right now do is my work is done. I showed you that this container is up and running. So I can also delete this service, this guy. So again, deleting is very easy. You can simply come here and say Docker service RM and the name of the service. Now, if you come here and say Docker service ls, you will see that it's not showing you anything. Now, think like this time you told me that I have to run 3 services of this, or I want to run 2 services of this. So I will add one more flag here. Sorry. I'll add one more flag here. I'll say minus minus replica. Okay, I'm saying that I want 2 such instances of this. So it will create 2 such instances for you, one by one, one by two. And obviously both will be running at different machines, because if both are running at the same machine, then there's no point. So if I come here and say Docker service, see here, one is working at Docker master, the other one is working at Docker worker node. So like this, what you can see is that you can scale your service to any number you want. If you say that I want the count as 5, even see if I say 5, my machine will get stuck. Okay, so I'm not saying 5, I'll say 3, because I'm having only 1 GB RAM. That's why I'm not going for such a big number. But so this is okay. Here it's saying 8080 is already being used, so you use some other port number here in case you want. So I'll make it as 8081. Okay, now it's saying the name is already there. So I'll say okay, server 1, and the port I will put it as 8082. Okay, 1 out of 3. So net what I want to show you here is that you can have n number of servers, n number of containers, and the container orchestration, what name had I given here? 1. So these container orchestration can be very easily done by you. So I've told 3. 1 is running on Docker master, Docker node, master. So 2 are running on master, 1 is working on node. And once your work is done, you want to just come here and you delete it. So basically my machine has got stuck because I'm running so many containers and it is only 1 GB RAM. So it has kind of got stuck. But I can come here and delete my machine. Okay, so net, what we covered in Docker Swarm is that Docker Swarm is a container orchestration tool, and this container orchestration tool will do things like scaling, making my application highly available, and maintaining the functionality by, even if the servers are down, it's deleted, it will internally go and manage everything, and it will make sure my application is always up and running. Once your work is done, quietly come here and just terminate these instances, because I've almost full everything. This application is almost full, so this is gone. Close this. This is also gone. Close this. Okay, so this is Docker Swarm for you. Now using Docker Swarm, you can orchestrate, you can manage load balances, auto scaling, all those things can be done. But whatever you're doing here is only tip of the iceberg. When you go to Kubernetes, you will see that there are 100 other features which are available on Kubernetes, and that's the reason Kubernetes is more widely used than what we are doing with our existing application on Docker Swarm. Okay, so we were discussing about Docker Swarm, and in DevOps world, there's a question here, which configuration is tough? So I will say Kubernetes is actually tough, not very much, but yes, it is tough. Can worker machine be other region? Worker machine in another region? Yes, you can do that. But in that case, you have to go and give your availability zone. But to start with, I will just request you to stick to one region, okay, and not to put things here and there. Does it create a worker node automatically? No, the worker node is not automatically created. You have to go ahead and provision it. In the beginning only, I created two instances, one master node, the other Docker node, so that we can put some load which is there on the master node on the worker node side. Okay, fine then. Thank you guys. So fine. So what I'll do is I'll stop for today, and I'm very apologetic that I joined 10 minutes late today. But from tomorrow onwards, I'll try to be bang on time, and then let's go with the schedule. See you then, guys, tomorrow. Bye bye.